but I can assign them to different things. So sort of like the tombstone thing. So let's pretend this is my tombstone. Another way I could do that grass thing at the bottom, break up that edge, is I could go to my eraser, come up here. And okay, so there's a lot of brushes in here that aren't assigned to anything. So I'm going to grab this one, see if it stays on eraser. It did. And now it'll erase out using that roughness of that brush. You guys see that?
Yeah.
So that's another way. That's what I was trying to show you yesterday, but I didn't have any good brushes. So you can see that it'll get a nice, right now I'm just using a mouse. Now it can break it up really nice on the bottom. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
So let's grab a funky brush. Let's try this one. So these are my Greg Rakowski brushes, okay? Let's see what this one does. It's good. So I'm going to switch over to my pad here. And I'm going to switch colors. Let's just get over here. Let's mix this up with another one. I'm going to pick another brush. Let's try this one. You can see I can get that pressure sensitivity here. Well, let's try another one. Let's try this one. Ooh, that one's nice. Yeah, that one's holding some brush marks. Yeah?
Yeah.
I like that one. That one's cool. Almost at the bottom. See, I got to put that in my favorites because I'm having that one's really nice. I like that. Okay, so now we're getting sort of an oily paint look. Let's try one more. Let's try this one. Oh, no, it's just, I'm on the first side or the second. I'm in the second side. And let's get another color in here. Let's go. I'm going to go back to this oily one like this. Let's get this. And let's get a purple. Purplish. Now, it makes a nice mark and all that, but it still needs, some work, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So let's go up here. I'm going to go to my smudge brushes. I really like this one. I start a lot of things with this, and then I'll go to something else. So I'm going to shrink this down. You can see I can start to control the edge the same way I would control an edge in oil painting. I can soften up this edge, break it up. And I can start to get a real oily kind of look to it if I want. And if I want to go, okay. And by the way, I mix colors this way sometimes too, because sometimes I can mix a color here that I really can't get on the color picker. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's take another one. Let's go to this one. This one will just soften the hell out of it. See that? Sort of like a watery watercolor edge. You got to be really careful with that. And then let's look at another one. Painterly blend. These are kind of nice. So it gets you sort of a nice watercolor edge, like a broken watercolor edge. So now we're sort of taking the brush work out of it and starting to push it towards more of a watercolor look. And I can come in here. Here's a pebble blend. It'll kind of do the same thing, give you that little washy watercolor edge. But you can see I can start to get a lot of nice, pretty believable oil paint or watercolor or gouache, whatever I want. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'm going to show you some other ways to do that too, where you can dial in a brush. We'll show that probably Monday or something. So does that make sense, you guys?
Yes.
And I
Yeah.
could go back to my brush, and start mixing these things together, which is kind of the beauty of this whole thing. Then I could go back to my smudge. Now, another one I have that's kind of interesting. So if I wanted this to be more of an oil or a watercolor idea right from the beginning, here it is. Okay, so watercolor wash, 80%. That's one I use quite a bit for this kind of thing. I'm going to switch over to my brush again, or my stylus. So you can see it builds up on itself like a watercolor brush, right? Make sense?
Yeah.
So then I'm going to jump over here. I might even be able to assign a smudge brush to this. Let's see. Yeah, I did. So because this isn't assigned anything, you can also use it as a smudge brush. I don't like what the reaction I'm getting, so I'm going to go to I'm going to go to my smudge brushes. Go back to this one. And I can start to sort of, this one gives me a nice broken edge, if you notice. Like sometimes I like to start clouds and things with that. And then I'll switch over to one of these other ones. I want to get a nice watercolor look. That broken edge is nice. Now, another thing we might be able to do, let me see. Let's just make it right about that. There's a couple ways I can do this. Now I'm going to go up here and go, no. I'm going to go here. Use saturation. I'm just going to totally desaturate that, make sure there's no color in it. And I can either go right here, maybe go multiply, and I can start to make it look like it's actually on watercolor paper. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yes.
So we're just doing an overlay, right? Now, sometimes you can do that over and do the painting over it, but in this case, it's working okay. And the reason that I make it, I make sure it's desaturated all the way so it's not throwing any color into it. I know I've taken all the color out of it. It's just grayscale, right? And you can see it's pretty believable, right? And I just got my standard brush, okay? I'm going to pull my Is that 100? Let's just try that for the hell of it. And I'm going to do the same thing we did yesterday. Edit, find brush preset. I'm going to go test, because this is just a test. Now I'm going to delete it. And now, oops. And now I've got this. Okay, if you look at it, it's repeating that shape sort of like in a ribbon. You guys see that? Yeah?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Which could be fun, but it's not really me. I'm gonna go a little smaller here. Now I can come over here. Hopefully I've got it in here, which I don't. Which means I have to reset my whole thing. Window, brush settings. That's what I want. Oh, this one. That's cool. I can see it. And over here, I've got all these options. So I can go, you can see now here, it's got a little taper on it. And I could come in here. I can come in here And I could squash it this way. You can see what it does to it. It's kind of tapering it out a little more, but it doesn't have as much thickness in the middle. I'm going to go back to this. That tapers it out a little bit. And then, okay, so now let's just put it back to here, full whatever. You can flip the Y or X axis here, okay? And then here's where we can start to change it. So right now we're on shape dynamics. Or we're on brush tip shape, I'm sorry. So look, now I can come in here and I can space those. So what that's doing is repeating my brush shape. So that's what you were seeing before and why it looked like a ribbon. So now you can kind of see it spaced out. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm going to space it out, and then I'm going to come here to scattering, and I'm going to go scatter. So now you're starting to count how many I want. The jitter, which will just sort of randomize it a little bit. I can go to texture. I don't want to get too into texture yet. Let's not do texture yet. I like to use transfer. If you notice, see what it does? It sort of fades off the ends. So I can kind of barely hit it and then push it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And color dynamics, I'll talk about a little later. And all these, some of these other. Now, some of these you'll pick and you'll go, well, why doesn't it do anything? Because it needs something else to do it. Okay, so let's go. I want to take this. I'm going to go back to brush tip, and I'm going to push this shape closer together a little bit. Now another thing, this is important. I'm going to go to shape dynamics, and right here under angle jitter, it says direction. So now what it's going to do is it's going to follow my hand. You guys see that?
Yes.
And I'm only going to go so far down this rabbit hole because I'm lucky. I found a video that somebody really explains this really well, but this is how he's doing it. So don't worry about him talking about how he's doing it. This is how he's doing it. Okay. And also he's using an old version of Photoshop. So this can become directional, and that's what I'm going to show you here in a minute. And you can see how I can start to build up a very simple fur texture or something like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Which I think is very exciting.
That is really cool.
Let's put a dark color in here. For some reason, certain things that aren't working right now. Like blending. And then let's take this. And then I'm going to show you somebody doing this. You know, now if I go this way, now it's not the right way. So I'd have to go back into my. So this makes sense if I was following the form of an animal or something, right? And then you can go a little, you know, like you're going to see him do it in the other one, the one I'm going to show you here in a minute, where you could do a little rim light on here. Also, I don't know if we talked about this much. This is floating on its own layer, okay? So if I click this little button right here that says lock, what that's doing is there it is, lock transparent pixels. So what that means is it's locking anything doesn't have any image on it. So that means I can lock this, and then I can paint over this, and it won't go outside of my thing if I wanted to highlight that fur. Does that make sense? It'll lock all this transparency off. Yeah?
Yeah. That's
And I
cool.
can unlock, just make sure you remember to unlock it if you need to unuse it. So, and you'll see this in the video, the guy will do it. You know, it's going to do a full whatever.
What's the difference between that lock and the other lock?
Which one? Lock on the layer?
Yeah.
If you lock the layer, you're locking the whole layer. You just can't work on it.
I see.
When I lock transparent pixels, that's weird. Oh, I'm on the wrong layer.
Yeah, because you see two locks. It's like one next to the word lock and then
This
one.
just, all this one does is locks transparent pixels.
Oh, transparent. Got it.
I'm going to unlock it. And I'm going to go up here and lock this one again. So now I'll only stay within that selection, which is really handy. It also kind of does it nice and clean, sort of. That's way too much, by the way. I'd have to come back in here and build it up. So I just unlocked it. So if I'm going to go over this side, and you'll see this in the video, we'll talk about it. I'd have to go back to my brush settings here. Oops. Here. And I'd have to go back to brush tip shape, and I'd probably have to swing this around and get the others so I can do the other side like that. Now it's starting to read a little more on the other side. It might be flipping the axis or something. I never have any luck with that. So, you know, if I go over to the other side of the animal, I want the fur to follow that path. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Now, I can, this doesn't have to just be that, by the way. Let's go. You know, there's a million different ways you can make brushes out of this stuff. So let's just try this one. Go back to this. I don't want that brush now. Now, here's another thing. If I make this brush, if I make this brush and then I go, I like this, I want to save it, you go, well, I've already saved it because I saved it right here, right? Yes? Okay, that's not right. That's the original thing. If I want to save these settings, I got to go over here. Oh. I went off brushes for some reason. If I go, I like these settings, I got to go here and go new brush preset, test 12, just for all of it, and go okay. And then when I go up here and look at the preview, there's my, you see the difference between this and this, right?
Yes.
And you can see here, it's got the little brush icon, which means that's a custom brush. Means I probably can assign it to like the clone stamp or the eraser or something like that. You can see these up here are specific to smudging. These are specific to some sort of custom setting. Does that make sense?
Yes.
We can make it. Let's see if we can make it an eraser. No, see, it switches to brush. Okay, but if I go back to it now, I've got those presets in it, which is nice. This is going the wrong way. It should go this way. It actually, I have to pull it upward to get the right look. Now, I don't know if you guys have ever noticed this. You'll see it right now in this video I'm going to show you. Like I saw this years ago when people first started doing this. Hang on a second. Let me grab another coffee. Sorry, guys. I'm powered by coffee. Let's just do. I shouldn't have that little shape there. It's going to repeat, but that'll be all right. Define brush preset. So we're getting this. Yeah?
Yes.
It's kind of cool, actually. I mean, I might use that to start like a weird kind of reptilian thing and then paint over it and change it. Okay, so let's go. Let's space it. See what we get. Okay. And then I'm going to go. Okay, so we have this. I could squash it. I don't want to do that. I want it full out. I can change the direction of it, whatever I want to do. But I want to go here to shape dynamics. And I'm going to go to jitter. Now, see, that'll sort of randomize it a little bit. I don't want it overlapping, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. Minimum diameter, let's go there maybe. And then angle jitter would totally randomize it a little bit. I can flip it, flip Y jitter, or Y jitter. I can go to scattering, and I want to go to scatter So I want to randomize it. Count, I want a lot. Let's try 2 and just see what that looks like. Okay, count jitter. Now they're going to overlap a little bit, but that's fine. I want to put a little transfer on it. So I can knock out the opacity on the ends a little bit. Low jitter. That's it. I think that's it. And now I can start to get, now the way I look at this, like if I was doing a, and I'd have to adjust it more, but you can kind of get the point. This would work really good if I was doing like a, some kind of reptilian, like a dragon or something like that. I could use this as a texture for the scales on the side of it. Does that make sense? Then I'd come back in and smoosh things out and paint over it, and, you know, all that kind of stuff. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And if I had, and I'll talk about this thing later, but if I had it, you know, where I wanted to form it around something, I could go back up here to our transform tools and go to this one called warp. And I could take this and I could start to wrap this around my form of whatever, you know, whatever the form is. Like that. I could wrap it around. And I could start to almost texture map it. Now, another thing I could use this for, let's get it back to normal. Let's say that I put, and I'd have to get these where they're not overlapping. But let's say that I had an environment and I want it to be a cobblestone road. I could go back up here to the same place, edit, transform, perspective. And I could pull these this way. And I could create, you know, a little cobblestone path or something if I want to do that in an environment. And if this was a road, again, I could go back up here, transform, warp, you know, and I could have the road sort of curve at the end of the road. I could have it, you know, just do whatever I needed to do to make it wrap over that. Maybe the road curves this way. I could start to wrap this stuff around it, you know, if the road is coming that way. Does that make sense? Yeah?
Yeah.
Now, what I'm trying to get you guys to think of is not to go, oh, that's how you make a fur brush. No, this is how you make a bunch of different brushes for a bunch of different things. It could be scales, it could be cobblestone, it could be brick, it could be texture, it could be a million things. You can make a really custom brush for like just ground texture. You know what I mean? I mean, it doesn't matter. You can use it for anything. But I try and get you guys not to think in any class I'm doing, okay, this is not a fur texture tutorial. It's not about that. It's about, okay, this has limitless possibilities. I can do a million things with it. Now I could come in here and I could go to scattering, let's go to count. So this could become, you know, I could go, let's see. We got that. Shape dynamics. I'm going to go, let's go with the brush tip shape first. Let's go space it out a little bit. I really want to randomize this. I'm going to go to shape dynamics, jitter it. Angle jitter, really randomize that. So a lot of this you got to go in and just play with initially. In scattering, want it pretty dense. Let's put it there for now. Jitter it up some more, scatter it a little bit. So this is scattering it out, so that's nice. And then I'm going to count it up some more, scatter it. I'm going to go to transfer. And that should take some of it. Yeah, there it goes. So it takes the edge off a little bit of the front and the back. I can push that a little harder if I want. And now I'm going to go back to shape dynamics, and I'm going to go right here to the middle one and go direction. And now I'm going to save that for a second.
Chest hair.
Hmm?
It's chest hair.
Yeah, could be chest hair. What I was going to do was
Nice.
right. Oh, see how it went back because I didn't save it. So I'd have to save it. If I go off that brush, I'm going to lose it. You know, and I could just create a lot of texture and hair and things like that that looks very complicated, and it's not. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
One of the key ones you got to remember though is in that, I think it's in the shape dynamics, the middle one, put it on direction if you need that, if you need to follow your hand. If you want to do a very complex, that kind of thing, we're going to sort of wrap it around something. It's a really handy thing. Or it could be, like I said, leaves and things, and I can scatter them around. Then I could go and change the dynamics of that leaf shape brush again, and maybe make this one sort of bigger and this one smaller, and that'll change up so they don't look like they're repeating all the time. I'll go in and erase some out. I'll paint over a little bit. Okay. Okay, you guys, I'm going to let you go. Everybody knows what we're doing, right? I'll put it up under the grading thing. I'm going to grade these.